YouTube, what's going on? It's your boy SalvationsElite, and we are back with another video, guys. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed this last competitive loadouts video. It's gotten a pretty good response, and like I said, I'm excited to bring this one to you guys today. If you guys haven't had a chance to check out the S&D loadouts video from yesterday, go check that out. I talk about a few things that I'm definitely going to reference today, so it's going to be important for you guys to know that, so make that happen. So now that you guys are with me right now in this moment, let's do the competitive hardpoint loadouts. So the gameplay that you guys are seeing right now is a little bit of hardpoint action on Sainte Marie du Mont. Once again, playing with just a friend of mine. We're just playing a little bit of pubs hardpoint. Ironically, the gameplay isn't a competitive gameplay, but, you know, I think you guys can get the gist. I use a lot of the same loadouts that I actually play with in competitive when I'm playing pubs, just so that I can continually get a feel for what I'm going to be using in competitive. You know, it's always a grind, man. It's always a grind. But nonetheless, the first loadout is the PPSH, or the hard shooting PP, with the basic training primed, of course, and then we're using the infantry division, actually. The reason for that is because you get the perk of moving down sights, the faster movement down sights, and it really gives you an advantage in those strafing motions. And a lot of times people aren't used to that after playing pubs or whatever, because people's always using airborne with the PPSH. So in competitive, I really do like using the infantry division, and it works pretty well with the submachine gun. You have a lot of down sight movement, and it feels really good. So it works well, and that's why I think about that. With the PP, you got the quick draw, you got the grip, you got advanced rifling and FMJ. Like I was talking about yesterday, when you use the infantry division, you get the extra attachment, and then when you use the primed, you also get an extra attachment. So you get 4 attachments in this loadout. Gives you a little bit extra slaying power. You're able to have quick draw and FMJ, not just one or the other. It works great. You could also, instead of using FMJ or quick draw, instead use a sight. It's really just your preference. I don't feel like I need a sight on the PP, so it works pretty good just without one with FMJ. Like I talked about in the last video, I definitely think the PPSH is the best submachine gun in the game. All the other ones are okay, and they do a certain role, but the PP is by far the best shooting all-around gun in the game when it comes to submachine guns, at least. And it's at least competitive with the STG at mid-range, and obviously superior at close range. So when it comes to PPSH versus the bar or versus the STG, I think you do have an advantage at the close range, and I definitely recommend it for any submachine gun player. So the next class is also the PPSH, but the only difference really is that you use the armored division instead. So obviously when you're playing a respawn, say it's hardpoint, maybe it's gridiron, it just kind of depends what mode you're playing. Specifically for hardpoint, I would recommend that at least one of your teammates is running armored. The teammate that is most likely to get into the hill and really likes holding down and anchoring that hill probably could be using armored. So obviously grenades and molotovs are less effective on you when you're using the armored division, and you can just anchor that hard point even better and more effectively. So at the end of the day, you don't have to have an armored division, but I recommend the player who's most likely to be anchoring the hard point does use the armored division, because it can give you a hands up on the opponent. So in transition for this next class, like I said yesterday, I do believe the STG at this point, after the 10% reduction in fire rate to the bar, the STG is a little bit better than the bar. Even though it may not slay as well as the bar does at the longest of ranges, it undoubtedly is better at mid-range and definitely better at close range and more competitive with the PPSH. And I think it's just a more versatile weapon at this point, and it just absolutely does work for me. And so I'm just going to keep running with it. So with that said, the next class for hardpoint, for respawns, for gridiron, for capture the flag, you know, whatever it may be, is the STG with the infantry division using primed basic training once again. Because of the infantry and primed combo, you get those 4 attachments. So I would also recommend the quick draw, grip, advanced rifling, and the reflex sight. Like I said last video, advanced rifling gives you 30% increase in range, and you can really notice that with weapons that have longer ranges, because a 30% increase in range on a weapon that already has longer range just extends that range even farther. So I really do like advanced rifling on the STG. It can make a difference, especially in those mid to far range gunfights. If you're dueling somebody who has the bar or the STG who doesn't have advanced rifling, you might have that extra shot to kill on them at that certain range. But undoubtedly, it will be the difference between some kills and some deaths. That's why I always will recommend it if you can afford putting it on your class. So I only had 3 classes for you in this one. Again, like I said last video, there can always be variation in some of these classes depending on what your team wants to do. Of course, the tacticals and what you're running with that isn't very important. You can use smokes, you can use stuns, you can use frags. It's really whatever you want to do in that case. Where if you want to push the hill, you can use the frag. If you want to wrap and use choke points, you can use smokes to cut off some of those choke points. And of course, you can use stuns to hold corners and things like that. It just depends how you want to play as a team. I would recommend a variation of all 3 when you're playing, and it can really work if you use it together. These 3 classes just alone can really help you hold hardpoint hills, continue with rotations, help you hold spawns in capture the flag, and help you move with that ball and without the ball in gridirons. So nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something that will help you play better in competitive Call of Duty. If you guys did, like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. Share the video if you guys really enjoy it. It means a lot to me. We're almost to 900 subscribers, on our way to 1,000, which is awesome. I've been really looking forward to that one, and it's going to be exciting to finally get there. So, as always, I'm your boy, SalvationsElite, and we'll see you next time. I'm out. So it comes down to a little bit of personal preference. I think the SCG is a little bit more competitive at close ranges now that the bar's rate of fire was nerfed by about 10%. So I think the SCG wins in that close-up category and gives you a little bit more flexibility in those 1v1s.